Go ahead and adjust your posture in any way that will help you to be both relaxed and alert. And let's just take a few moments to check in and see what's here. There's a good chance that we've all been focusing our awareness outside of ourselves, beyond ourselves. Let's take this time to check and see what's here inside. What's the breath like in this moment? Is it deep? Is it shallow? Is it short? Is it long? Is it cool? Is it warm? Without needing it to be any particular way, without needing to change it in any way. Simply following the breath with your attention. And every time the mind begins to wander, as it does, it is so good to know all you ever have to do is very gently bring the attention right back to your anchor of awareness, whether that's the breath or the feeling of your feet on the floor. What's it like in this moment? Welcome again. I don't remember if I shared this teaching last Tuesday. Wait, we didn't meet last Tuesday, right? That's okay. I was going to say, if I've done this before, I'm intentionally doing it again, and to notice if something, arises in you and it's like, oh, I wanted something new and interesting, but it's going to be new and interesting. So, but for Beryl, it's not going to be because you've been working with this with me. We're going to continue working with something from the morning blessings. And it has been on my mind and feels very apropos of this time, with the understanding that this is a really terrible time in history for so many reasons. But for those of us who love Israel and get mad at Israel and just have that, I don't mean to make light of it, but have a very complicated relationship, it's very difficult. And for those, as we believe in B'Tselem Elohim, that all people are made in the image of God, it's been very difficult. And I know many of you may either have family or close relationships or colleagues or teachers, friends, but connections to this war in Israel and Gaza. So what I wanted to share and to work with today comes from the morning blessings. So here are our morning blessings. Sometimes they're called morning blessings, but here's a page from Mishkan Tefillah. And actually in Mishkan Tefillah, they call these Nisim B'chol Yom. A nes is a miracle. As we get closer to, or little less than a month away from Hanukkah, which starts on the 8th of December this year, or the 7th of December. So we're a month away. We talk about a nes, a miracle. But this is nisim, or the plural, bechol yom, of every day, daily miracles. And it starts with, just the ability to tell day from night. That's a miracle. Then the ability to have our eyes open to, praising the God who opens the eyes of the blind, in all those ways that we mean that. And then right below that is praise to you, or blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who frees the captive. Matir Asurim. All of my life that I have read this blessing and said this blessing with feeling, and as thoughtfully as I can, it has always felt like a metaphor. But right now it is that, and it is more, because there are people, not that I know, but that friends know and that you may know, that are being held captive. They're actual captives. And so we see this blessing in the Jewish tradition as holding both of those places, both the physical captivity of people and that metaphorical captivity. And of course, it's brought home to me and to many because of a connection to Israel. And the truth is that maybe not at any time, but at many times, there are actual people in captivity. So let's take a look at those two words. Oh, let me go back, sorry. So it's our regular blessing formula. Baruch atah Adonai, blessed are you Adonai, Eloheinu, our God, Melech haolam, sovereign of the universe. And these last two words, matir asurim, or over here in the transliteration, matir asurim. And those two words, matir, means to permit, to allow, or to unbind, to set free, to unfasten, to loosen. Asurim means the absolute opposite, to tie, to bind, to imprison. And it occurs to me right now, sharing this with you, is that in this situation, I feel this tension of the opposites, of so many opposites. But here, matir, to free that which is bound, which is tied, which is imprisoned. So this is the daily miracle of a blessing of the one who releases the bound. The one who releases the bound. So I'm going to, and just a little bit more. This comes from a commentary by Rabbi Art Green on the Siddur. So here he's speaking about Matir Asurim, who releases the bound. Now he's commenting that it immediately follows Malbish Arumim, which means clothe the naked. And if you notice, that's not what comes before there. Here it says open the eyes of the blind. And I'll just say that that is because different prayer books put these things in different orders, not just because they fell on the floor and they picked them up in different order, but there are reasons, and we don't need to go into it now, but if anybody's interested, I'm happy to nerd out with you at some point and talk about that. But just to know that there are different ways of putting them together. But he notes that it's following Malbish Arumim, who clothes the naked, as sort of a counterpoint. So clothes the naked, and then who releases the bound. And he goes on to say that God is the one who releases us from all the ways we are bound up and enslaved. And he's talking about, well, I guess all the ways, which includes physically, but also the metaphorical. It could also be the embodied. I am bound up when I hurt my knee and I can't stretch my leg out all the way. I am bound up when I eat things that make it so my digestive tract does not move the way it should. I am bound up when my mind gets stuck on a thought or a problem or something, and that does not move. So all the ways we are bound up and enslaved, breaking all the multiple sets of bonds that surround us. We trust that God can see through them, no matter how complicated they are. And he adds, even if they derive from a misguided sense of religion itself. And so I read this, that we trust that God can see through them. That's that, for me, that is it hope? Is it faith? I think it's both of those things. And the understanding that there are times when my eyes are clouded, my vision is clouded, I am caught up and I can't see clearly, or just the fact that I'm a human being and I don't know what's happening next. But that maybe we live in a universe where there is a being or use whatever God language you like, an energy at the heart of the universe that can see through these things that bind me up. Even if they derive from a misguided sense, let's say misguided sense of religion or misguided sense of belonging or misguided sense of tribalism or misguided sense of danger or misguided sense in all the ways in which we misread a situation. All the ways where fear and anger can cloud our sight. And so he finishes here that Yud-He Vav-He is the one who is forever bringing us forth from all of our Egypts. Egypt being that quintessential metaphor of being enslaved in Jewish tradition. So I think that's, I'm going to stop the share and move from that to working with meditation. And with this idea of releasing or freeing what is bound. So in meditation, we talk about 3 unwholesome mind states that capture us. Sometimes they're called the 3 poisons. You'll recognize them. I say them a lot. Craving, aversion, delusion. And so Joseph Goldstein says about them that knowing the presence or absence of these 3 unwholesome roots of mind, knowing their presence and absence, and knowing how they color or condition our minds, that this is part of why we sit, to see that. These 3 roots, greed or lust or craving, hatred or ill will or anger, and delusion or ignorance. And remember, ignorance is not only bewilderment and confusion, but the root is to ignore, to not want to know. And although the teaching in Buddhism, in the Buddhist practice, emphasizes simply recognizing when these unwholesome states show up and recognizing when they are absent, it's worth paying attention to the quality of the mind when it is free, Joseph Goldstein says. Paying attention to the quality of the mind when it is free. Sometimes I feel like when I sit down to meditate, I'm like looking for trouble. I'm like looking for what's... And this is a really good reminder that no, I'm not looking for trouble and then going to try and root it out and make it never happen and not think. No, we're not trying to catch ourselves being bad. We're just checking to see what is there, to pay attention and understand, 1, when they're present, 2, when it's absent, 3, how does it color or condition our mind? When I am caught by craving, how do I respond to what's going on around me? When I am caught by anger, how do I respond? And when I am not caught by anger, when it is absent, how do I respond? To a difficult situation, to a simple situation, just... And so he says, I'm just repeat it one more time because it feels important. It is worth paying attention to the quality of the mind when it is free from the different forms of greed and hatred or delusion. Matir Asurim, who releases the bound. At those times, even though, I'm going back to Joseph Goldstein, even though we may not be experiencing their positive counterparts in a direct way, so when anger or ill will are absent, we might not necessarily feel strong, loving kindness, which is sort of the opposite. We might just be somewhere in that easy middle. we can still recognize the ease and peace and openness of mind that are present. So we have those three, and I've used this, the hand motions for them are the pulling towards that which I want more of, the pushing away that which I don't want or don't like, and then the just going around in circles, just going around in circles. So we'll pay attention to when they show up, when they don't show up. Notice notice the wholesome and the unwholesome mind states. Notice what is skillful and what is not skillful in terms of response. For the purpose of discerning what leads to happiness and liberation and what leads to suffering. And I can talk all night, but it doesn't matter because it's what you find for yourself, what is in your own experience. And that's what we will do when we sit, is to check in. How does this work for me? And over time, as you take your practice from this sit out into your life, to notice when those three poisons are there, when they are absent, and then discerning which or what way of attending to that leads to happiness and liberation, and what leads to suffering. For me, when does my response to news or to someone's opinion or to an email or some other situation, when does that move past a skillful response and moves into annoyance, anger, hatred, or some emotionally charged reaction? And when are all of those absent? When do I notice anger went away? It just went away. And maybe that is a daily miracle. That they can capture me craving and greed, and I really need to buy this thing on Amazon. Boy, do I need it. I need it right now. And if I just breathe for a minute and go do something else, I forgot all about it. Maybe that's a daily miracle. Maybe that's a daily miracle. And maybe when I am stuck in delusion or ignorance, and something brings an important clarification to mind, that really feels sometimes like a daily miracle. So let's go ahead and find our seats. What we're going to do, I'll just tell you ahead of time so you know. We'll just sit with the letting be of body, breath, and mind. And then after that, as we finish, I'll move to a metta, a loving kindness meditation that will be first for ourselves, and then to those in our closest circles, those dear to us, people we know, and then to further circles, further away to us, colleagues, teachers, their friends, and then all peoples. So any questions before we go ahead and sit? Okay. Go ahead and find your seat. Make any adjustments to your posture that will help you to be both relaxed and also alert. And begin with a slow, deep breath. Inhaling into the belly so it gently expands. And of course, you can breathe any way you like. This is simply a suggestion. Exhaling slowly and completely, releasing all worries as you exhale. Relaxing for a moment at the end of the exhale before inhaling again. Take another slow, deep breath, inhaling into the belly, feeling the belly gently expand. Exhaling slowly and completely, releasing worry to the best of your ability as you exhale. Take a couple more breaths on your own, and then continuing to breathe from the belly, let the breath settle into its own natural rhythm. And let your awareness move from the belly all the way down to the toes and all the way up to the top of the head. Allowing your awareness to settle into the feeling of the body as a whole. Notice if there's any feeling of tightness, of anything bound, or even a feeling of holding on within the body. And let that release any amount. Matir Asurim, who releases the bound. Simply allowing these bodily feelings to settle in their own way. Deeply let be into the body. And let the body draw you into oneness with it. As if letting the body do the knowing. Let the body meditate you. And when the mind wanders, as it does, let that grounded feeling of the body draw you right back to it like a magnet. Noticing any feeling of tightness or holding on. Matir Asurim. Who releases the bound. Let them release in any amount. Now, if you like, while still breathing from the belly, feel the belly expand and contract with each breath. Notice that movement through the entire inhale and exhale. Do you sense any feeling of holding on to the breathing process? If you do, let that relax. Let that release. Matir Asurim. Deeply let be. Release into the bodily feeling of the breath. Let the feeling of the breath draw you into oneness with it, as if the breath is doing the knowing. Let the breath meditate you. Release control over the breath, and the body will simply breathe. And if the mind wanders, let the feeling of this breath draw you right back to it. Now, if you like, bring your awareness to any thoughts arising in the mind. Notice any sense of grasping to the thinking process. Notice any habitual thinking, any holding on to a specific sense of self, or to a thought or a memory. And let that feeling of holding on release deep within. Give the heart and mind permission to fall gently and totally open. Matir asurim. Letting the mind reunite with the natural openness that's already here, beyond any reference points. Open like space. And let this total openness of mind draw you into oneness with it. Just allow the openness of mind to do the knowing. Let it do the meditating. Let any patterns of thought, any habitual feelings, let them just release, unwind within this space of deep acceptance, letting everything simply be. And when the mind closes up again, when you find it holding on to a narrow thought or feeling, just let the heart and mind release, relax, and reunite with the natural openness that is already here. It's already here. Letting all patterns of thought and feeling simply unwind and release within the space of deep acceptance. And whether the mind and heart feel open or closed, bring attention to the emotional heart. There's no right way to feel, no wrong way. The heart will feel many things. Can we be open, receptive to the possibility that I may be well and happy? That I may feel safe and cared for, content and at ease. From that place of openness of mind and heart, may I be open and receptive to the possibility that those that are dearest to me, that they may be well and happy. That they may feel safe and cared for, content and at ease. And if you like, we can expand that circle wider to include distant relatives, to include colleagues, teachers, to include our relatives' friends, our colleagues' friends and family, our teachers' friends and acquaintances, the circles that touch the circles. Open to the possibility that they may be well and happy. That they may feel safe and cared for, content and at ease. And expanding that circle as far as feels safe for you and comfortable for you. Open to the possibility that includes all people everywhere, all sentient creatures, all living beings. Open and receptive to the possibility that they may be well and happy, that they may feel safe and cared for, content and at ease. And then bringing the circle back in close again to include those of us here connected in this Zoom call. May we be open and receptive to the possibility that we may be well and happy, that we may feel safe and cared for, content and at ease. Moving back to each individual heart. Open and receptive, that I may be well and happy, that I may feel safe and cared for, content and at ease. Bringing the attention back to this breath as it softly touches the nostrils, the upper lip, Thank you, everybody.